In 1984, a city bus driver in Cincinnati had $18,000 in a passbook savings account and not $1 of debt. He had never earned more than $22,000 in a single year. He had never owned a credit card, never carried a balance, never once paid a finance charge. What he had was a set of money habits almost every American family still practiced until the year after, when the country quietly traded them all for plastic. They saved differently before 1985, not with apps or advisors or balance transfer offers, but with habits their parents drilled into them after watching the banks fail in 1932. Then the credit card conquered the mailbox, the interest caps came off, and we let go of every habit that ever stood between us and the easy yes. Number 23 on this list was turned into a trap by a single line Congress rewrote in 1986, and it has drained more home equity than any market crash since. Number 11 contradicts everything a modern planner will tell you about putting money to work, and it built more untouchable savings than any account before it. And number 2, the habit the credit industry spent the late 1980s engineering out of the American wallet is the difference between a family that owns its life and one that rents it back from a bank. These 30 habits were not about pinching pennies. They were about keeping what you earned before someone could lend it back to you at interest. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 30 money habits Americans lost after 1985 that quietly wiped out their savings. Number 30, the passbook you could see. Before 1985, your savings had a face. You carried a small booklet to the bank, handed it across the counter, and watched the teller stamp the new balance by hand. Every deposit was a line you could read. Every withdrawal was a line you had to face. A welder in Cincinnati watched his passbook climb for 20 years and never once let a line run backward. Then banks replaced the book with a card and a screen, and the balance went invisible. What you cannot see, you do not guard. The passbook was not paperwork. It was a conscience you could hold. Number 29, balancing the checkbook to the penny. Every month, you sat down with the statement and made it agree with your register, line by line. If it was off by $1, you hunted the dollar. The habit forced you to look at every cent that left your hands. A schoolteacher's husband in 1983 caught a $4 bank error and made them fix it on principle. Then debit cards and online balances did the math for you, and nobody looked anymore. The bank's number became the only number. It was attention, paid monthly. You cannot manage money you refuse to look at. Number 28, cash on the barrelhead. For anything that was not a house, the rule was one line: no cash, no purchase. You saved for the television, then the sofa, then the dishwasher, and you carried each one home free and clear. A machinist in 1982 counted out $200 for a washing machine and owed nobody a cent. He had watched his own father lose a sofa to one missed installment in the Depression, and he never forgot it. After 1985, the card made waiting feel foolish, and the waiting stopped. Cash made you feel the price. Plastic made you forget it. It was not inconvenience. It was a break. What you cannot pay for today, you cannot yet afford. Number 27, one card, paid in full every month. The careful family that carried a card carried exactly one and cleared it to zero every month without fail. The card was a convenience, never a loan. You used it like cash and paid it like a bill. A foreman in 1984 paid his single card in full for 11 straight years and never paid a dime of interest. Then the offers multiplied, the wallets filled with plastic, and the balances started rolling. 1 card cleared monthly is a tool. 5 cards half paid is a leash. The interest is only free if you never carry it. Number 26. Burning the pre-approved offers. They arrived in the mailbox by the dozen after 1985. Congratulations, you are already approved. The careful family threw everyone straight in the stove. You did not open them. You did not feel flattered. You treated a credit offer the way you would treat a stranger offering to hold your wallet. A retiree in 1987 kept a tally and burned 41 offers in a single year. Each one was a door he refused to open. The offer was not an honor, it was bait with a stamp. The only safe pre-approved loan is the one you never read. Number 25. The Christmas Club. It looked like a holiday gimmick. It was the savings reflex of a whole generation hidden in a Christmas card. You opened the account in January and put in $2 a week. 50 weeks later, you walked out with $100 in cash, and December owed nobody anything. A nurse's aide kept hers running and paid for every Christmas of the 1980s without a card. Then the banks quietly let the Christmas club die because the credit card earned them more and the club only earned the family. It paid no interest. It paid for December in advance.
Before we go on, I made something special for you. A guide for people like us who still believe the old ways worked best. It's the forgotten money rules that working-class families live by. The kind that built real wealth on a single income, so you never have to live paycheck to paycheck again. But this wisdom is disappearing, and once it's gone for good. I've put together 2 books for you, plus a free bonus. Imagine how much more peace of mind you could have a year from now by putting these forgotten habits back to work. Scan.
Number 24. Layaway over credit. When you wanted a thing you could not yet pay for, you did not finance it, you laid it away. The store held the coat or the bicycle in the back, and you paid it down a little each week until it was yours. The day you carried it home, you owed nothing. A mother in 1983 put a bicycle on layaway in October and paid the last dollar before Christmas. After 1985, the credit card buried the layaway counter because the store earned nothing on your patience. Layaway charged you time. Credit charges you forever. Number 23. Never borrowing against the house. The home was the one thing you spent a lifetime paying off. You did not turn around and borrow it back. Before 1986, this was simply common sense. Then Congress rewrote the tax code, killed the deduction on most consumer interest, and left it standing only on home loans. Overnight, the banks had a reason to sell you a second mortgage for a boat. A couple in 1989 was urged to tap their equity for a kitchen and refused. The house was the finish line, not the cash machine. Equity borrowed is a paid-off house unpaid. Never mortgage the thing you already won. Number 22. 20% down in cash. Before you toured a single house, you had 1/5 of the price in cash. No down payment, no house. You saved for years and borrowed less than the man beside you. A young couple in 1984 put 20% on the table and treated the figure as law. By the 2000s, the average down payment had collapsed toward a few percent, and the market collapsed with it. The down payment was not a hurdle the bank set. It was a wall you built for yourself. 20% down is not about the loan. It is about who holds the leash. Number 21. The used car, paid in cash. A car was the fastest way a working family turned wages into nothing. They refused the trade. You bought a car 3 or 4 years old for 1/3 of its first price and paid cash. Then you drove it a decade. A pipe fitter in 1983 bought a used wagon for $2,000 and drove it 12 years. The money he did not finance, he saved. After 1985, the long car loan became the norm, and the payment never ended. A new car was not a reward, it was a down payment on staying broke. Here is what the numbers actually say. In 1985, the American family still saved close to 9 cents of every dollar it earned. By 2005, that rate had fallen near zero. In the same span, credit card debt grew from a footnote into more than $1 trillion, and the average household began carrying a balance it never finished paying. The wages did not collapse. Adjusted for inflation, the modern worker earns more than that 1985 family did. What collapsed was the gap, the space between what came in and what went out. After 1985, frictionless credit quietly filled that gap with somebody else's money and charged rent on it. The family that saved was not richer because it earned more. It was richer because it kept the gap. We handed the gap to the banks and called it convenience. Number 20, the coffee can emergency fund. Before any bank packaged the idea, the cushion already sat on a cellar shelf. A few dollars went into the can every week: the furnace, the roof, the transmission. When the water heater died in 1986, you paid cash from the can and borrowed nothing. The men who grew up in hard years never needed convincing. After 1985, the home equity line and the credit card replaced the can, and the emergency became a balance. The can earned no interest. It earned the right to never borrow in a crisis. A cushion you can touch is a loan you never take. Number 19, banking every raise. When the raise came, your life did not change by $1. The raise went straight to savings. You earned $15 more a week and lived exactly as you had the Friday before. A lineman did this through a decade of raises and saved the entire difference. After 1985, every raise arrived pre-spent. A bigger car, a bigger limit, a bigger life sold on credit. He declined the sale year after year. A raise is only a raise if you keep it. Spent, it is just a bigger leak. Lifestyle is the quietest thief there is. Number 18, banking every windfall. The household ran on the base paycheck alone, so every extra dollar was free to vanish into savings, the tax refund, the bonus, the overtime. None of it touched the kitchen because the kitchen needed none of it. A clerk in 1986 banked his entire tax refund 3 years running and built his first real cushion. After 1985, the windfall became a down payment on something financed. Extra money was not for living. It was ammunition. The windfall you spend is a weekend. The windfall you save is a foundation. Number 17, steering clear of the ATM. Cash used to take a trip, a line, a teller, a withdrawal slip, banker's hours. That friction was a feature. It made you plan, and planning made you spend less. A steel worker in 1984 took out one set sum each Friday and made it last the week. When it was gone, and he waited for the next Friday like everyone else. Then the ATM put cash on every corner, day and night, $2 a withdrawal, and the planning disappeared. The machine was not convenience. It was a faucet with no handle. Money that is always within reach is money that is always half gone. Number 16, the budget written on paper. Every dollar that came in and went out was written down by hand once a week. You sat at the kitchen table on Sunday and entered every figure in a notebook: groceries, gas, the light bill. A foreman's wife kept the family ledger for decades and could tell you what milk cost in 1985. After that, the statement did the recording, and the recording stopped being yours. The leak you can see is the leak you can stop. It was not bookkeeping, it was control. You cannot keep what you never count. Number 15, buy it once. You paid more than you wanted to, exactly once, and then never paid again. One good coat, one good pair of boots, one good set of tools. The cheap one broke, got replaced, and broke again. A carpenter in 1982 bought one steel hand plane that his son still uses. The careful buyer spent less by spending more up front. After 1985, cheap and disposable became the whole market, and the replacing never stopped. It was not extravagance, it was arithmetic. Cheap is expensive on a long enough calendar. Number 14, repair, don't replace. When a thing broke, you fixed it before you ever thought of buying another. A worn heel got resold, a dead toaster got opened, not tossed. A torn screen got patched. A neighbor in 1984 kept a washing machine running 19 years with a parts catalog and a screwdriver. Repair was the default, and the default kept the money home. After 1985, replacing got cheaper than fixing on purpose, and the throwing away began. It was not stinginess. It was a second paycheck hiding in the garage. The cheapest appliance you own is the one you already fixed. Number 13, the packed lunch and the home table. The family ate at home, and lunch came from the kitchen, not a counter. A sandwich, a thermos, a piece of fruit in a paper sack. Eating out was for an occasion, not a Tuesday. A factory hand in 1983 packed his lunch every working day and saved the difference without thinking about it. After the mid-1980s, the drive-through and the food court turned eating out into a habit, then a default. It was not deprivation. It was a few dollars a day that compounded for 40 years. The cheapest meal is the one waiting at home. Number 12, the retirement you never touched. He had a pension, and one rule about it, hands off, always. He never borrowed against it, never cashed it out. When the 401k arrived in the mid-1980s, the careful man treated it the same way. He fed it and forgot it. The men around him cashed out when they changed jobs and spent the lump sum. He rolled his forward and pretended it was not his to spend. The cash out was not a windfall. It was a retirement someone tried to hand you 20 years early. Guard the old man's money. He is the only one who cannot earn more. Number 11, whole life as forced savings. It was insurance for the family. It was also a savings account you could not talk yourself out of. You paid the premium every month like a sacred bill, and the policy built cash value somewhere too dull and too locked to raid on a weak Friday. For a generation that distrusted the market, it felt like solid ground. A man in 1984 borrowed against his wants to bury his father and repaid it inside a year. It was not the fastest way to build money. It was the way that could not be unbuilt in a weak moment. Here is the comparison nobody draws honestly. In 1984, when you wanted something you could not afford, there was a pause. You went home, you saved, you waited. And half the time the wanting passed before the money arrived. That pause was where the family did its best thinking. After 1985, the credit card erased the pause entirely. The wanting and the having collapsed into the same instant, and the bills simply arrived later, with interest attached. We were told this was progress, money the moment you wanted it. But the pause was never the obstacle. The pause was the savings. A whole country traded 30 seconds of patience for 30 years of minimum payments and called the trade convenience. The wealth built in those quiet seconds of waiting is the wealth most of us will never see. Number 10, ignoring the catalog. The catalog came in the mail, thick as a phone book, and the careful family used it for one thing: to find what they needed, not to discover what they wanted. You did not browse for pleasure. You did not order on a whim. A homemaker in 1983 kept a list of what the house actually needed and bought nothing off it. After 1985, the catalog became the mall, then the screen, and browsing became its own appetite. Wanting is manufactured. It always was. You cannot miss what you never let yourself see. Number 9. The 30-day pause. When you wanted something that was not a need, you waited 30 days before buying it. The want went on a list and sat there. Most wants did not survive the month. A machinist in 1985 nearly bought a boat, waited, and put the money on his mortgage instead. The credit card was built to delete that month, to put the boat in the driveway before the wanting could cool. He kept the pause like a treasure. The wait cost nothing and saved everything. 30 days is the cheapest financial advisor you will ever hire. Number 8. The cellar pantry. The basement shelves held next winter before winter ever came. You bought in bulk when the price was low and ate it when the price was high. 100 jars and cans lined the wall. A family in 1982 filled a pantry every fall and shaved a fortune off the winter grocery bill. The full cellar was ordinary, not survivalist. After 1985, the just-in-time trip to the store replaced the stocked shelf, and the family paid full price all year. It was not hoarding, it was buying time at last year's price. The cheapest groceries on the shelf are the ones you bought a season ago. Number 7. The backyard garden. Half the family's summer vegetables grew behind the house, and the grocery bill shrank from June to September. A few packets of seed returned crates of tomatoes, beans, and squash. The children weeded on Saturdays and hated it, then planted gardens of their own decades later. A steelworker's wife in 1984 canned what the garden gave and fed the family on it through the cold. After the 1980s, the garden became a hobby for the few instead of a habit for the many. It was not a pastime, it was a grocery store that took no cards. Number 6. The quiet street. They bought a modest house on a working-class street when they could have stretched for a finer one. They chose the neighbors on purpose. The people on that block packed lunches, drove old cars, and did not measure their lives against a showroom. The pressure to outspend simply did not live there. After 1985, the bigger house on the better street came with the bigger payment, and the keeping up began. The street did the discipline for free. A family becomes the 5 households nearest it. Pick your street, and you have picked half your future. Number 5. Teaching the kids at the kitchen table. The habits were not left to chance. They were drilled in, on purpose, before the children could earn. You sat your 10-year-old down and explained the whole of it in half an hour. Pay yourself first. Owe no man. Save before you spend. A father in 1984 walked his daughter to the bank to open a passbook with $1. She retired debt-free on a modest salary. The lesson cost the parent nothing. It costs the banks billions in foregone interest, which is exactly why no one teaches it for them. It was not a lecture. It was an inheritance. Number 4. Spending less than you earned. It is the oldest rule there is, and the first one we lost. The family spent less than it brought in every single month, and the difference was the wealth. Not most months. Not on average. Every month. A bus driver in 1985 lived on 4/5 of his pay and banked the rest like clockwork. After 1985, credit let a family spend more than it earned and feel no pain until the statement came. The gap was never about the income. It was about the discipline. Spend less than you make, and you are already richer than the man who earns twice and keeps none. Number 3, banking the whole second income. By the mid-1980s, the two-paycheck household had become the norm, and most families let the second check inflate the life. The careful family did the opposite. They ran the whole household on one income and saved the entire second one. A couple in 1986 lived on his wage and banked hers, every dollar, for 15 years. The second income was not for a bigger house or a second car. It was the escape route. They did not earn their way out early. They saved their way out. A second paycheck spent is a lifestyle. A second paycheck saved is a decade of freedom. Number 2, owe no man. That was the rule, the whole rule. Not manage your debt, not use credit wisely. Owe no man. If you could not pay cash, you did not buy. If you borrowed only for the house, because the house remained. Everything else you waited for. A man who owed nothing could walk away from a bad job, a bad year, a bad deal. That walking away was his whole freedom. After 1985, the credit industry spent a decade convincing America this rule was old-fashioned. It was never old-fashioned. It was just unprofitable to everyone but you. Number 1, pay yourself first. The simplest habit on the list. The quietest. The one almost nobody keeps now. On every payday, before the mortgage, before the groceries, before the bills, you moved money to the savings side first. Some weeks it was $20. Some weeks it was $5. The amount never mattered. The order was everything. You did not save what was left at the end of the month because nothing is ever left at the end of the month. You took your share off the top and built the rest of your life around what remained. After 1985, the automatic withdrawals all started flowing the other way, out to lenders, not into you. Pay yourself first, without fail, and in 30 years, you will keep more than most men ever earn. It was not savings. It was sovereignty. The bus driver in Cincinnati retired with more in the bank than he had earned in any 2 years of his life. He did it on a wage that never broke modest. He was not lucky, and he was not clever. He simply kept doing what nearly every American family did before 1985, and never stopped. None of these habits required a degree. None required an advisor or an app or a single point of interest. They required attention. The willingness to see your money, count it, and keep it before someone else could borrow it back from you. These were not the habits of the rich. They were the habits of the free. Wealth was never the size of the paycheck. It was the size of the gap and the discipline to guard it. After 1985, we handed that gap to the banks, one convenience at a time, and called it modern. The convenience came, the savings did not. But the habits have not changed. They are still plain, still boring, still free. And the day you pick even one of them back up is the day the gap starts coming home. This is historical content, not financial advice. Consult a professional for your situation.